Hey everybody, Rob D'Alessio, Taste of Retirement. Today what we're doing is a duck egg, homemade pappardelle with a bolognese sauce, and it is unbelievable. Come on, let me show you how we do it. Okay, duck egg, homemade pappardelle with a rustic bolognese sauce. It's absolutely fantastic. Don't forget, if you haven't already checked out our YouTube page, go to it, like, subscribe. You'll see amazing content, just like the one we're doing today. Now, when you're making your own pasta, I use what's called a 00 flour. It's a really, really good flour for making pastas, but I also use semolina because semolina, in my opinion, makes the best pasta there is. So I do 3 parts 00 flour, 1 part semolina, and then you're just sifting it to incorporate it all together. Also, you're gonna have 4 eggs, you're gonna have some kosher salt. And you know, we're filming this episode in Denver, and what's Denver known for, other than skiing and snowing? Mountains. And so what we're gonna do, we're gonna make a mountain with the flour, except it's actually kind of gonna be a volcano, so it's gonna be like the Taste of Retirement volcano. So you've got that pile, and what you wanna do is just spread that out. And then you're gonna start cracking your eggs, and put them right in the middle. So you got like a bowl full of eggs. So you've got the eggs in there, and all you're gonna do here is you're gonna beat the eggs, obviously to incorporate the yolks and the whites. And then once that's all mixed up, you're gonna start pulling in the slides slowly. And you're gonna make what's called a slurry. Now, normally a slurry would be like cornstarch and water or something like that. Here, we're using a cold liquid and flour. And just as it starts to thicken, start to bring more in. And then eventually you're gonna fold it over. Watch, I'll show you. Okay, so as it started to solidify, you're bringing in the sides. What you're gonna wanna do is get some kind of spatula or maybe some kind of scraper, something along those lines. It was getting really thick at that point. So then you're gonna wanna really just fold in from the sides. And it's gonna be messy, man. You're gonna get messy, it's all right. That's not that you can't wash your hands. And you're gonna go in there, and then you're just gonna start to mix it. And just keep going. It'll go from being gooey to eventually becoming a nice ball. Sometimes, you know, when you make it, it'll be a little too dry on you. You know, you never know exactly the same size of each egg. So if you need to add more egg to it, go ahead and do that. Then just mix it in. All right, so we're starting to get the dough ball. It's starting to get the consistency that we want. We had to actually add a couple more eggs because, you know, sometimes eggs are just different sizes. Sometimes things just work differently. We're in Denver. It could be a different altitude, no telling. But you see, you got your nice dough ball going, and I've added actually a little bit more flour to the board because at this point, it was still a little bit more moist than I wanted it to. And so you just want to roll that into a ball and get that into a nice firm ball. And all of this took about somewhere between like 5 and 7 minutes. But now that you've got that ball in place, what you want to do is you want to let it rest and let all of that flavor incorporate inside. And you don't want to go too far into kneading it or you're going to make the pasta tough before you've even cooked it. So just grab some plastic wrap. And the reason you want to wrap it is because it has moisture in it. So you don't want to let that moisture go away. So you wrap it, nice ball. It's nice and sealed, and then you're just gonna let it rest for about 30 minutes, and then we'll come back to make the pasta. Okay, so we've let the dough rest for about 35 minutes. Now it's formed nicely, so we got a nice floured cutting board here, and you just wanna cut it into sections. So I'm gonna knead it down a little bit to get a little more uniformed in size, so each section. So you obviously can't make pasta from the one big ball. So what you want to do is go ahead and separate it out. And so what I do here, I take the other sections and go ahead and just kind of loosely wrap them because you don't want them to dry out. Now, what you want to do then, get some more flour going and knead that out pretty flat. And then, normally you want a rolling pin, but if you don't have a rolling pin, just to show you how you can multi-purpose, just take something that's flat, go back and forth till it's nice and thin. Okay, pasta's nice and thin. We're just gonna feed that right through the pasta accessory on the KitchenAid here. It'll get a little long, and that got stuck there. That's all right. You know, the first couple batches may not be perfect, but once you get to exactly where you want, you get some more flour on it, feed it through again, and then you'll start to get the consistency that you want. You can see that's starting to thin up. So then what we're going to do is we're going to take it down one more notch. Feed it through again. And we're going to go all the way down to the thinnest setting. And if the pasta sheet gets too long, don't be afraid to cut it. You just cut it, you got a nice amount of flour on there, and just feed it through. Pasta's been made, now it's time to make the sauce. Bolognese, some people call it ragu. I've got a pot of boiling water, obviously salted. What I did is I just folded up the pappardelle, and then you want to cut it and you want a nice thick noodle. And just leave that to the side, and then we'll put that in at the very, very end. The good thing about fresh pasta is that it takes just a little bit of time to cook it. It doesn't take long at all. Like if you buy a dry pasta, it takes 10 to 12 minutes, whatever it is. Here, just about 90 seconds, maybe 3 minutes, whatever. We got some canola oil, got a pan on medium high. Just get some of that there. We've got ground chuck. I love to use an 80-20 ground chuck. The good thing about bolognese is you can also add lamb, you can add veal, you can add pork. For this version, we're just gonna go ahead and do the ground chuck. Just makes it a little bit more simple. Kind of a fan favorite that way. We're gonna brown that off, and then when it's done browning off, we're gonna pull it out and then transfer in the mirepoix, which is basically onions, carrots, and celery. And then when they soften, we'll start incorporating the rest of the ingredients. The rest of the ingredients are simple. Tomato paste, whole peeled tomatoes, salt, pepper, Parmesan, a little bit of garlic, red wine, which I like to use a dry red wine. I use a Cabernet. Remember, when you're cooking with wine, use a wine that you would actually drink yourself. And then lastly, a little bit of whole milk. That'll help to thicken the sauce up for you. Once the meat's browned off, and you don't have to go all the way through, it's gonna cook down plenty. I just like to use something slotted to leave as much of that juice and as much of that happiness in the pan. All of that's just gonna add extra flavor. So you just take it out when it's browned off, and you don't have to worry about getting every last little bit, but get as much as you can. And then what we're gonna do is add a little bit more oil in, and then we're gonna slow cook the mirepoix. A little bit more oil. Then let's add the veggies. And we're gonna cook those down. And then once those start to really get a little bit translucent, we're gonna add the garlic, cook it down, and then we're just gonna keep going step by step. We're also gonna use bay leaves in this recipe. When I put them in, I'll talk to you a little bit about that. Bay leaves add awesome flavor, but you gotta get them out of there. You can't eat them. So the mirepoix's in there. And it takes a while. You know, carrots are a really hardy vegetable, so they take a while to reduce down and become as close to translucent as possible. If I put the garlic in too early, it'll burn. And when garlic burns, it gets a really, really bitter taste. It's no good, nobody likes it. So the garlic will go in later, cooks very quick, but the flavor will still incorporate. This will take a little while, maybe 10 minutes or so. Okay, so as you can see, the sauce is reduced down by almost half. The smell is unbelievable. I bet you wish you can scratch your phone and sniff it. Sorry, you can't. You're just gonna have to make the dish. But it's really, really good. The longer you simmer it, the longer you reduce it, the better. It's just gonna thicken up, and you can just absolutely, you can smell the wine, you can smell the aromas of the cheese. One thing I've gotta tell you, when you go to serve it, make sure you don't serve a bay leaf to somebody, because they hurt when you're chewing on them and you can't really digest them anyway. But make sure you don't do that. But now what we're gonna do is we're gonna drop the pasta. And so you've got the boiling water going. It's the fresh pappardelle. So give that a stir, watch it a little bit. The cool thing about pasta and different things like that is it starts to float as it gets cooked. So it's gonna take maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes max. And when you're cooking it, You want to cook till al dente, which means to the tooth. But you can actually go even a little bit less here, because what we're gonna do, we're gonna transfer it to a bowl. We're gonna label in some of the bolognese, and then that'll actually help to bring it up a little bit too. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the pasta out. I like to use like a mesh strainer or maybe even a spider. You know, just get some of that water. You don't need to dump it into a colander. That water's got some starch in it, and starch is gonna add to the sauce anyway. And now, as far as the sauce goes, you can add as much or as little as you like. I kind of like quite a bit of sauce, but maybe one nice size ladle there. And then be gentle to the noodles because you don't want to break them apart. All right, there you have it. A duck egg homemade pappardelle with a bolognese sauce. Now, I like to finish it with a little bit of aged parm and parsley. Taste and color, looks amazing, great plate presentation. If you haven't gone to our YouTube page, I don't know what you're waiting on. Go to the page, like, subscribe, you'll see amazing content just like this one. I'm Rob D'Alessio, and this was The Taste of Retirement.